Welcome to Keystone Review video number 2. This video is all about systems of equations with some inequalities thrown in. So question number 7. A student is selling small and large frozen pizzas for a school fundraiser. The student earns $3 for each small pizza sold, $4 for each large pizza sold. The student has sold exactly 30 pizzas, and the student has earned $100. So how many small pizzas and large pizzas has the student sold? The first thing I would do is that I would look at my 30 pizzas. So there's my 30 pizzas, and decide, is one of my answers invalid just because of that? So small pizzas plus large pizzas has to equal 30. Well, we have 10 plus 20, 18 plus 12, 14 plus 16, and 20 plus 10. So that doesn't help us at all. That means that I need to use a system of equations in order to solve this one. So let's organize ourselves a little bit. We'll look at a couple of different situations here. So I have small pizzas. What do we know about small pizzas? We know that we have $3 for each small pizza sold. And then we have large pizzas. So let's use a different color for large pizzas. So our large pizzas, we have $4 for each large pizza sold. So that kind of gives me some information. So now I can put together my equations. I'm going to say my small pizzas are my x, my large pizzas my y. That way I can set up my equations. I know the total pizzas is 30, so that means x plus y must be equal to 30. I also have a dollar amount, and I know that the total sold is $100. So 3 times x plus 4 times y must equal $100. This gives me enough to start. I'm going to take my first equation, and I'm going to transform it. I'm going to solve it for x. So we have x equals 30 minus y. And then I'm going to take that information and I'm going to substitute it into my second equation for x. Then I'll only have one variable. So 3 times 30 minus y, because 30 minus y and x are exactly the same thing, plus 4y equals 100. I'm going to distribute next to get rid of my parentheses. So I have 90 minus 3y plus 4y equals 100. Then I'm going to add my like terms together. So 90 plus 1y, or y, equals 100. Subtract 90, so y equals 10. That tells me that my large pizzas, because remember my large pizzas are y, gives me 10 total. The only one of these that gives me 10 large pizzas is selection D. You can also take each of the selections, and I could multiply my small pizzas by 3 and my large pizzas by 4, and that would give me a total. And hopefully you'd figure out which one gave you 100, hopefully selection D. Question 8. The system of equations below describes the relationship between the time t in seconds two objects have been traveling and each object's velocity v in feet per second. So we have our two equations, and then based on the system of equations, which statement about the velocity of the objects is true? Let's do some analysis first. If we look at both equations, the only thing that's different is the plus 16 in the second equation. So because there's a plus 16 in the second equation, that tells me that the velocity of the objects will never ever be the same, because there's whatever the first object is traveling at, you're going to add 16 to it to get the velocity of the second one. So that tells me that A has to be the right answer. B can't be right because of that plus 16. And if you look at C and D, you could substitute some value in like 1 second or 5 seconds or whatever, and you could see that neither one of those would be correct either. And it's all because of that plus 16 in that second equation. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes you just have to stop and you have to analyze the situation and see what's different in the two equations before you can figure out which one the right answer is. Okay, on to the next one. Number 10. Sandy has at least 2 times as many pencils as David has. David has 3 pencils more than Pietro has. Pietro has 4 pencils. So which number line shows the solution set for possible number of pencils that Sandy has? In this one, we have to kind of work backwards from Pietro to David and then to Sandy. So we know Pietro has 4. So Pietro's got 4 pencils. David has 3 more than Pietro. Well, Pietro's got 4. So that means he's got 3 plus 4, which is 7. Sandy has at least 2 times as many pencils as David. So David has 7, so 2 times 7, which gives us 14 pencils. Now it says Sandy has at least 2 times as many. That does not mean less than. So at least does not mean less than. So that means that Sandy has 14 or more pencils. Okay? So if we look at our number lines, the dot has to be at 14. C and D, those dots are both at 7. So those are incorrect answers. A and B have the dots at 14, but B says less than because the arrow's pointing lower than 14. So B is not correct. A is correct. So pay attention to which way the number line is shaded. Also pay attention to the dot. Is it an open circle or a closed circle? In this case, Sandy can have 14 pencils. So that should be a closed circle. If she couldn't have 14, it would be an open circle. Okay? I hope that clears up some misunderstandings there. For number 11, the graph of the solution set for a system of inequalities is shown below. So which system is represented by the graph? You can save yourself an awful lot of work if you look at the answers first and kind of see what's different about them. So in this case, it looks like the basic answers are exactly the same except for the inequalities. That tells me that we need to analyze the expressions and compare those expressions to both 4 and 6. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm just going to pick a point. Any point in the shaded region. The shaded region is the solution set. I'm just going to pick -3, 0, because I like working with zeros because they're really easy to work with. So I need to evaluate -2x plus y and compare it to 4. And I need to compare 2x plus 3y to 6. If I use my solution point, -2, the x part is -3, plus 0. So negative 2 times negative 3 is 6, plus 0 is 6. And compare that to 4. So 6 is bigger than 4. I'm going to do the same with my other expression. So 2 times negative 3 plus 3 times 0. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 0 is negative 6. And that is less than 6. So we want the inequality signs to be not the same. They are both the same in A, so A cannot be the correct answer. They are both the same in B, so B cannot be the correct answer. So we need to focus on C and D. If I look at my first piece, so 6 is greater than 4, so that tells me that my first inequality has to have the greater than sign. The second inequality has to have the less than sign. In C, the first one has less than, the second one has greater than, so C is not correct. So D is the correct answer. You can do this other ways too. You could try to graph your lines and see what matches, but I think in this case, picking a point from the solution set and analyzing really helps speed up the selection process. Okay, hopefully that made sense to you. One more. So we have number 12. A teacher is buying word games and board games for his students. Each word game can be played by up to 4 students. Each board game can be played by 2 students. The teacher needs enough games for 30 students to play at the same time. The maximum amount that the teacher can spend on the games is $200. The number of word games, X. The number of board games, Y, the teacher buys must satisfy the system of linear inequalities below. So we've got our inequalities. The teacher plans to buy 5 word games and 8 board games. So which statement about the number of games the teacher plans to buy is true? Okay, so word games, remember, is X. Board games is Y. So we can then take this information and we can evaluate our inequalities. So 4 times 5 plus 2 times 8 is greater than or equal to 30. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 16, which is 36. And that's definitely bigger than 30. So it looks like there will be enough games for 30 students to play. So that's good. That tells me that C and D are incorrect because they both say that there will not be enough games for the students to play. So that eliminated 2 of our choices just by doing that piece. If we do the other piece, so 14.5 times 5 plus 18 times 8. And look at that piece. So we have 14.5 times 5 gives us $72.50, because remember, we're talking about money and buying these games. And then 18 times 8 is 144. And we add those together. We get $216.50. And it has to be less than 200, but unfortunately, the teacher's going to spend more money than he wants to. Okay, so A says there will be enough games for 30 students to play at the same time, but the total cost will be greater than the maximum amount. B says there will be enough games for 30 students to play at the same time, and the total cost will be less than the maximum amount. Well, we know that the cost, $216.50, is bigger than $200, so A then is the correct answer for that one. If you're having trouble with the word problems, take a breath, reread them a couple of times, take some notes, highlight some things. That should help you if you kind of put things together and organize yourself. Okay, I hope that helped. Again, make sure you reread just to make sure that you've got all the information.